Shalom. Kal halalim la Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, elder bishops of Great Millstone. Shalom to the prophets of that body, and shalom to the 144,001 We are approaching the end, thick and fast. Barak the Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai. All right. So put on your seatbelts. All right. Spiritually and literally in certain cases. We're approaching that time as the digital wallet talks and things like that have been, people have been talking about that for a while, and now it's coming to play in terms of it's got to be compulsory. All right. So before I go into the video, I'm going to read a scripture. All right. Revelation 12, verse 12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. All right, Esau, the so-called white man, and the powers that be know that time is short, and they've got to get their project, which is the NWO, off the ground, New World Order. All right, so it's not going to come into complete fruition, but they're going to get to the point where a lot of people will take the charagma, and the charagma, in the Greek. So charagma is the word in the Greek, but it would be the word mark in Revelation 13:16, which is an etching into the flesh, or an insertion into the flesh. Okay, and I'm just going to play the video now. All right. I mean, ultimately, they're saying they want to track people, they want to track illegals. Now, if you notice the story or the way they've played things out, illegal migrants and illegal this, illegal that, and then they set up all these, because the world is a stage, right? They set up all these so-called females being raped. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but sometimes you can see it through the spirit that, this is bullshit. It's made up. These are crisis actors, and sometimes AI in certain cases. And this gets the emotions of the nation going hard and strong. Okay, so the so-called white man who thinks he's indigenous to certain countries, he's not indigenous anywhere, wants to protect his daughters. They start smashing up houses and places and buildings and this, that, and the third. And the so-called white man is willing to go ahead with this, they're willing to let go of their freedoms as long as it keeps the so-called foreigners out of their land. Or if they're so-called legal foreigners or legal people to be in that country, right, they're okay with that. But they want to keep the foreigners or the illegals or the people that are, that are so-called criminals, they want to keep them out of the land. So they're willing to give up their freedoms as long as the pressure is on the people they hate, which is mainly people of color, brown people, so-called black people, mainly the Israelites. Okay, and Esau, likes to count and likes to track. Hence they do this census every 10 years and things of that nature. So this has been building up, and now with this compulsory digital ID, right? A lot of people will be skeptical. A lot of people will be upset about it. A lot of people will fight tooth and nail against this, right? But there's a lot of people also will say, you know what? At least it'll track the illegals. At least it'll take a lot more colored faces out of the country that are not supposed to be here, right? Now let's just go with the video.
We start here in the UK on an issue that's divided the country over the last few decades. Every adult will need a new government-issued digital ID to prove they live and can work here. Well, under plans to be announced by the Prime Minister on Friday, the move is part of efforts to crack down on illegal working. Most European countries already require their citizens to hold ID cards, but the UK has long resisted, with concerns over civil rights and privacy issues. Here's our political correspondent, Ian Watson.
ID cards are not a new idea. They were compulsory during the war and not abolished until 1952. The idea was revived in 2005 by Tony Blair's government.
Look into the mirror.
The then Home Secretary was seeing how these biometric cards would work. They were supposed to tackle illegal working and establish entitlement to public services, but the scheme faced technical challenges and political opposition and hadn't been implemented by the time of the 2010 election, when the Conservative Lib Dem coalition scrapped them. And now the idea has been revived under this Labour government. Ministers have been looking at a digital ID scheme in Estonia in Eastern Europe, which is used to access public services. And they believe that attitudes towards ID cards have softened as concerns about illegal immigration have risen. The government's direction of travel has been clear for some time. Earlier this month,
So 20 years ago, when Tony Blair brought it to the forefront, they were against it. But now with the illegal migration or illegal immigrants, what does this guy just say? He said people's thinking with regards to it has softened. So people are melting, saying, you know what, let's just go ahead with this mandatory digital ID.
Risen ID card, which is used to access public services. And they believe that attitudes towards ID cards have softened.
Attitudes have softened. So they're weakening the people. People are saying, you know what, let's just go with it. And then from here, it'll lead to it being put into your flesh at some point very soon. Because they'll call, problem, reaction, solution, Hegelian dialectic. They'll create a problem. Okay, they'll create, there'll be a reaction. And they obviously the Esau, the so-called white man, small hatters and all that, they're in charge of the media. So they'll have their actors and people in place, move their chess pieces, do what they got to do, right? And then from there, it'll lead to people saying, okay, you know what? And then they'll have the same scenario again saying, okay, and then there'll be news reporters saying on TV and on YouTube and all over the world saying, oh, people's ideas have softened for taking the identification device into their hand or their forehead or wherever they say it's going to be put. But more than likely, it's got to be a seamless, accessible point to scan, right? It's going to be either your hand or your forehead. And that's going to be the same place. So basically, they are, preparing you for the slaughter, preparing, the nations around the world to be, under lock and key, so to speak.
As concerns about, and they believe that Estonia in Eastern Europe, which is used to access public services, and they believe that attitudes towards ID cards have softened as concerns about illegal immigration have risen. The government's direction of travel has been clear for some time. Earlier this month, Keir Starmer told the BBC why he thought they were a good idea.
I'm determined to stop people making that crossing across the channel and to get people out of our hotels. And therefore,
one thing I want to add as well: people hate Keir Starmer. Okay, I was out, I was driving yesterday, and I just saw a whole bunch of graffiti with English flags, and a whole bunch of graffiti against Keir Starmer and migration, and it looks like it's all planned and set up. They've probably got their people to spray paint this shit all over the place. There's a whole bunch of Union Jack flags being hung everywhere on light posts, lamp posts, and that around London, trying to drum up the emotions of these honkies, these Edomites. So it's definitely getting there. Jacob's Trouble, the Charagma, all this is coming into play, man.
I am looking at ID cards or ID digital hotels, and therefore they
were a good idea.
I'm determined to stop people making that crossing across the channel and to get people out of our hotels. And therefore, I am looking at ID cards or ID digital ID because we do need to look at the pull factors.
The Prime Minister believes this is an important weapon in his armoury to tackle illegal immigration, but his idea is creating clear blue water between government and opposition.
Keir Starmer scrapped the Rwanda removals plan without having any other plan in place. He said he was going to smash the gangs. He hasn't done that. Digital ID cards is not going to smash the gangs or stop the boats.
I fear this is a bit like what they tried to do before, where it's authoritarian, where it's centralised, where it's controlled by the state, and we should oppose that like we did before.
And there are practical questions. If digital ID requires a phone or computer, what happens if you don't have one? The government says it will consult on the details, so don't expect to have to prove your identity online just yet. Ian Watson, BBC News.
Let's go live to Westminster. Our political correspondent, David Cornock, is standing by for us. Hi, David. So this isn't going to be straightforward, is it?
No, it's not. There are, as Ian said, lots of practical questions, difficulties of persuading people.
If you caught what the guy just said here, go back. He said, what if you don't have a phone? If you don't have a phone. Okay.
And there are practical questions. If digital ID requires a phone or computer, what happens if you don't have one?
Okay, digital ID requires a phone or computer. What happens if you don't have one? Okay. And there's a lot of people that are sort of illiterate. There's a lot of people that are, slow in the mind. Let's just say that. Okay. People that require assistance. So there's going to be, some way has to be, there has to be a, they have to execute a plan to have digital ID for people that are illiterate or, so to speak, disabled or whatever, to be tracked as well. Somewhat that are people that are somewhat able-bodied, but not, they're like basically, what's that movie, Rain Man with Dustin Hoffman? Something like that on that level, but a little bit more dumber. So they're going to try and maybe push the charagma for people like that, that aren't so able-bodied or right in the mind as well, So they're gonna pull out something out of their box of tricks, so to speak.
The government says it will consult on the details, so don't expect to have to prove your identity online just yet. Ian Watson, BBC News.
Let's go live to Westminster. Our political correspondent, David Cornock, is standing by for us. Hi, David. So this isn't going to be straightforward, is it?
No, it's not. There are, as Ian said, lots of practical questions, difficulties of persuading people that they need this sort of digital ID. Keir Starmer believes that the arguments have changed since 2005 when the Tony Blair Labour government tried to introduce ID cards. He thinks that psychologically people have moved on, that people are comfortable with having lots of digital ID for their daily life. But you heard there that he's clearly linking this policy with the whole question of small boats, because he believes it's too easy for people to come to the UK and then disappear into the environment and work illegally. But big questions about the arguments over civil liberties, and certainly there are some on the left as well as those on.
I mean, the UK is a small island as well, right? And they're worried about people disappearing into the so-called abyss. How much more in larger lands, larger land masses, places like America. And America is huge. As mentioned many times before, the state of Texas, you can fit the UK into it 5 times. So it's coming. It's definitely coming.
On the right who are very unhappy with this policy initiative.
And is the calculation here that immigration right now is a big enough issue to take this risk? Because, of course, Downing Street will have realised that there will be plenty of opposition to this.
Yeah, I think that's certainly a part of it. And the government wants to be seen to be tackling small boats. It's not succeeded in stopping those crossings this year. It's had limited success with a deal with France, a one in, one out deal. But overall, if you look at the opinion polls, if you look at the rise of Reform UK, you can see that immigration has soared as a political issue of concern to voters. And I think in a speech tomorrow, we will hear more from Keir Starmer talking about the need to listen to people's concerns about immigration. And he clearly thinks that a digital ID pass is part of reassuring people that the government is actually tackling something that matters to a lot of them.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. What is a digital ID in the UK? UK digital ID is a secure electronic way to prove your identity using verified data on a digital platform. such as the gov.uk wallet, okay, which will store, gov being short for government, of course, which will store digital versions of documents like driver's licenses, passports, and even age related credentials, allowing you to access services, verify your age, and manage your personal information securely and efficiently without physical documents. Right? And it's called gradualism. All right, so you don't have to carry debit cards, credit cards, or whatever. Right? People are using Apple Pay now. People are having they've got digital versions of their card on their phone or whatever, right? There's a bunch of things going on. All right, and your Gen Zs, a lot of them that aren't sort of circumspect, right? A lot of them, they'll take it because Gen Z are basically practically born with a mobile phone in their hand, right? So their world has always been technology since they've been born over the last 20 to 25 years or whatever, and they'll be going ahead with this shit. How it works. Digital credentials. You can store digital credentials like a digital driving license in a trusted framework such as the gov.uk wallet. Biometric verification. Technologies like facial recognition can be used to verify your identity and access services. Selective data sharing. The system allows you to share only the specific data needed for a task, reducing the amount of information you have to share with various entities. Okay. A digital platform that will provide citizens with access to official credentials starting with a mobile driving license by 2027. Digital licenses, e-visas, digital versions of visas already introduced to allow people to prove their immigration status digitally. Key benefits. This is what they're going to give you, right? The seamless way you can deal with life. And if you watch certain movies like Back to the Future, especially Back to the Future 2, they show 2015, and our elders have said that the year 2000, because Esau's been messing with the calendar, with the Gregorian calendar, and they've increased days of the week or decreased days of the week, or however Esau's done it, right? Okay, year 2000 was actually 1970, right? And if you look at it, 1985, right? 1970, 1980, 1985. 1985 would have been 2015. And when was the Back to the Future 2 made? Right? Was it made in 1985? Because remember when the first Back to the Future ended, Back to the Future 2 was already ready. So basically, when the movie was made in 85, I believe, Back to the Future 2, it was officially 2015. All right. And in the movie, right, what did they show? What does Dr. Emmett Brown say to Marty McFly? He goes, in the future, children or people wear their pants or pockets inside out. Now, why would you have your pockets inside out of your trousers? Pockets inside out. Why? Because you don't require anything. Okay? And do you remember when they're using taxis and things like that in the movie? They're using their thumbprints. They didn't show the hand scanning at the moment because they don't want to scare the shit out of everyone, because it's supposed to be like a feel-good type movie, nostalgic and all that. Okay? But they alluded to the fact that money will be required less and people will be carrying less in their pockets, or they won't be carrying nothing at all. Okay? You got to watch these movies, man. They let you know to a certain degree what time it is. Okay, key benefits. Convenience and accessibility. Streamlines access to government and private sector services by eliminating the need for physical documents. Security. Enhances security by providing a more secure way to prove your identity, potentially reducing fraud. Okay? And they have all these and if they show these pickpockets and fraudsters, online doing their thing, the powers that be have all their teams in place and doing their thing, right, to increase fraud and to have all these people calling you up, trying to pull the wool over your eyes, so to speak, by stealing from you, And in some cases it's real, but in some cases it's basically the powers that be, that have are pulling the strings, Obviously, it's all Yahweh Bashim Shai, because this is all Yahweh Bashim Shai's plan on the right-hand side and the left-hand side. Isaiah 45 verse 7, right? The Lord controls both sides. User control puts people in control of their own data, allowing them to manage and share it securely. Economic growth boosts the digital economy, creating jobs and supporting the growth of new industries. I don't think so. Should go on LinkedIn, man. People are bitching and moaning about that they're not getting no jobs. Brakti Halbashim Ashai, man. Let's see what else is here. We pretty much got that summarized in the news segment we just saw. What does it say? Is that Trump? It says, call me indictment escalates Trump's promise. Okay, that's something else. I'll look into that later.
Your phone may become a form of ID under new laws. Here's what could happen. The Brit Card will be a mandatory digital ID card system. Using a smartphone app, employers and landlords will be able to check someone's immigration status. But the Labour Party has been on a journey when it comes to this policy. Under Tony Blair, Labour tried to implement ID cards unsuccessfully because of concerns around privacy. Civil liberties campaigners believe that ID cards, whether digital or physical, will fundamentally change the relationship between the population and the state and will turn the UK into a checkpoint society. And more recently, in July 2024, the then Home Secretary Yvette Cooper insisted that this was not Labour's approach and it was not in their manifesto. But Keir Starmer has had a change of heart. 14 months into a Labour government, and small boats crossings are at a record high. The government believes that digital ID cards will be an effective way of curbing illegal working and reducing the pull factors for illegal migration. But this trade-off between freedom and security has already angered several political parties and perhaps many voters too. Your phone may become a form of ID under new laws. Here's what could happen. The Brit Card will be a mandatory digital ID card system. Using a smartphone app, employers and landlords will be able to check someone's immigration status.
Okay, let's go to Revelation 13. All right, so it's coming. These are the building blocks. Okay, the foundation's been laid. And that final brick that they want to take it to is the charagma, which is the CHI to the P, right, which will go into your hand or your forehead, okay? And we've seen it in movies coming up, okay? You've seen movies in the 90s, you've seen movies in the early 2000s, you saw movies, man, going back far as the 70s and 80s as well, all right? Probably further back as well, all right? So we're coming to that point where, freedoms will be stripped, and what did that attractive lady say here? She said it'll be a checkpoint society, right? So it'll be a checkpoint society. The term she used, checkpoint society. What does that allude to? Martial law, people checking you. If you're going from city to city, it'll be hard to travel. It's going to be basically, you're just going to be just constantly on surveillance. And the UK has probably got the most, I believe, number of CCTV cameras around the world, I believe. Or is it China? It's one or the other anyway. But definitely UK is definitely one of them. Revelation 13:15. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Okay. Verse 16, and he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark, a charagma, insertion or etching into the flesh, okay, receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, okay. Verse 17, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Verse 18, here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is a number of a man, and his number is 600 threescore and six, which is 666. And that's verse 18 as well. 18 is what? 6 times 3 is 18, right? So 666, right? So now, at the moment, we have dollars and pounds and euros still operating in society. You're still getting paid that way. You can still hold cash in your hand at the moment. When the financial infrastructure crashes, right, and they produce a new way of buying and selling, and people want to hold on to what some kind of normalcy they have and some kind of optimism, a lot of people will line up to take the charagma, okay, which will be the CHI to the P. And they'll cause something to happen where the phones will be a phone won't be a handheld device, won't be secure. They'll create some kind of scenario where phones getting stolen or whatever, or however they will do it, which will they're going to push it towards the CHI to the P. But we'll see how it plays out, and that's how these devils are going to get down, because we are approaching the time. Esau just wants to make sure, Esau doesn't want to go into slavery, so they're trying everything in their power, to stop Jake coming into his blessing, which is the kingdom of heaven. All right, they've got weapons in place to try and fight the Lord. They're trying to delete Jake in droves, right? They're trying to lock Jake down, and also they want to lock the world down. All right, and we're coming to that point where these things that our elders and prophets have been speaking about in the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yeshai are coming into fruition. Like our elders say of Great Millstone, there's a time to prophesy, then there's a time for these prophecies to play out, and we're seeing it happen in real time. In real time. All right, in real time. Okay, now we're approaching October next week, month 8. All right, and then there's some demonic celebrations for these damn devils. Got that bullshit Halloween, that fucking Thanksgiving nonsense, and that Christmas shit. Right? October, November, December. Then it's 2026. Hey man, the Lord's going to do some amazing things for the elect, man. And we'll see how the Lord plays everything out. It's exciting because we can feel, damn near taste the kingdom coming, man. Just got to play out, the last few seconds of this hell. Our time speeds up even more. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Okay, so we are on the verge of the charagma coming into play very soon. Okay, because these devils know they have a short time, and they want to get there. What's the term? They want. Okay, I'll just call it. They want to get their project off the ground. All right, their NWO, New World Order, but they're not going to get it completely into. They're not going to get it completely 100% where they want it to be, because the Lord is going to stifle it. Okay, because they've had their time in the sun. Now it's our time to rule in the spirit and power of Yahweh, Hashem, Yahweh Shai. Shalom.